Hjaalmarch is an area cloaked with enigma and magic, its ominous mists and scattered marshes merging to illustrate a beautiful yet sinister painting. Stray strokes of the brush have created shapes of ghosts and entities both enticing and terrifying, with some remaining better hidden on the canvas than others. Its capital city, the small and inauspiciously picturesque town of Morthal, seems to be the epicenter of these often perilous energies, with its seers, vampires, and an especially powerful conjurer who claims he is protecting the settlement from an unnamed peril. What influence looms over Hjaalmarch and its capital, and just how dangerous is it? Daar sul muffen hok zijn bruche, a cora fos musiv do daar die gol staat. Drem Yol Lok, Zur is Valbo, and welcome to my makeshift study in Morthal's Moorside Inn. Here today, clean, warm, and dry, we shall turn our attention to both Morthal and Hjaalmarch in an attempt to unravel the reason behind the palpable heaviness and peril veiling both. As this research has quite a few fragments, often interconnected but scattered, we shall treat it as doves soaring the skies with intention and direction. Our flight will take us around the hold itself, where we will focus on its most prominent natural characteristics, its mists and marshes, the spiritual symbolism behind both, and the legends and stories they have inspired. We will also mention certain locations in passing relevant to our investigation, both marked and unmarked on our maps. Then we may land in Morthal to observe certain citizens and especially their abilities, as well as hear what they have to say of themselves, their home, and its surroundings. Once all of these pieces are known to us, we can finally attempt to put them together and offer theories behind the enigmatic and menacing energies looming over Hjaalmarch and especially Morthal, with Falion being a crucial constant throughout. The puzzle will culminate into possible influences of Morokei, Vaermina, Molag Bal, and none of them at all, with some speculations being more likely than the rest. Without further ado, we will focus on the inked pieces of parchment where I have documented my research. Let us begin. Mora now Minda. Hjaalmarch is considered to be one of the more mysterious holds of Skyrim, and for good reason. Aside from its geographical characteristics, there is not much information on the region, and the environmental specifics, aside from the foggy swamps strewn all over the area, are hardly relevant to our investigation. And speaking of the misty marshes it is known for, in earth and spirituality they are associated with enigma, uncertainty, transition, and the thin veil between our world and what lies beyond, Vostwazi line. Some also associate bogs with the subconscious mind and conflating feelings. These fascinating symbolic interpretations will re-emerge once we land in Morthal. The Hold's inhabitants have long since shared stories of ghosts and creatures roaming its landscapes, and not all are mere superstitions. During my deep dive on all known spirits of the departed in Skyrim, I uncovered that Hjaalmarch has the most sightings of visible specters out of all holds, alongside the Reach. The most popular legend that originated in the region is that of the Pale Lady, a ghostly woman believed to be related to the mysterious figure Omriel that Isgramor's heirs battled for decades, as is written in Talsgar the Elder's lost legends. She is said to have lost her daughter and purportedly stole little girls from people's homes. She will come up again in time. According to Matthias Etienne's work, The Wisp Mother, the eponymous creatures on which I have a research also concerning wisps, will-o-wisps, and the motes of Ingle Barrow are alleged to be native to this hold. Now we move on to the curious locations our wings will carry us over in Hjaalmarch. From the familiar Bromjunar, better known to us as Labyrinthian, to the small and unassuming Kenstag ruins, where a mysterious ancient Nordic ghost will spawn only once and lead us to a barrow being looted by bandits at the time of our arrival. There are many other significant ruins here, but none are relevant to our research. full amativ. Olmo Bo Mofeng Koraf, many intriguing places unmarked on our maps, and all of which we shall mention involve mages, often conjurers, or hint at the presence of arcane forces. The first is the warlock, or in my case, sorceress, who has set up an alchemical laboratory southeast of Dragon's Bridge near River Cars, and also appears to be interested in necromancy, given the corpse surrounded by ritual candles at her makeshift abode. The next is a caravan northeast of the mining settlement Stonehills, where we will witness a couple of bandits fighting and killing a conjurer whose companion has already perished at their hands upon the time of our arrival. Afterwards, we have a barrow not far from Morthal, where yet another conjurer has been vanquished, more than likely by the vigilant skeleton he had raised and clearly failed to establish control over. And finally, once again in extremely close vicinity to the capital is the Summoning Circle, also referred to as the Summoning Stones, an extremely significant location intimately related to Falion. Let us linger here a moment. What is interesting about the dais is that there are remnants of ancient Nordic architecture surrounding it, suggesting it could have been a part of a larger structure, perhaps one that stood in its full glory during the Merovingic era when the dragon cult ruled Skyrim. Maybe the lone stone gate we find in close vicinity to it was a part of the same alleged stone composition. Regardless, the symbol etched into the circle, while entirely unique to it, is also reminiscent of the Atmoran stone art we see in every ruin and on the rocks of walls of power, both of which were built now Kruzig Bronne. In further support of my suggestion come the edges of what one can interpret as a flower's petals. To me, they resemble hawks with their seeming eyes, beaks, and abstract wings. Kain, also known as Sister Hawk, was the technical chief deity of the Atmoran pantheon in spite of Dove's influence, due to her husband and the otherwise leading god of the ancient North Shore being a quote unquote dead god. Furthermore, we can uncover a very similar symbol to this one in the Bromjunak sanctuary atop the stone dragon's head. This marking can be interpreted as a portal, a leaf, or even as female genitalia, which could tie into Kain being referred to as mother of men and beasts by the ancient Nords. The presence of a familiar stone art in the dragon cult's haven may suggest a connection of it Wadova Herem. One may ask, if this dais was built by the ancient Nords for arcane purposes, and possibly, depending on one's interpretation of the symbols, related to Kain and or Faldovrache, the dragon gods in some way, what connection does it have to Falion's late night visits to it, and it being instrumental in him curing us of vampirism should we contract the disease? Both of these will be discussed in length later. Would it not be more logical for it to be somehow connected to oblivion in this case? I believe the answer to this is that is not at all necessary. Directly related to Kain or Dove, or simply being an example of traditional Atmoran sigils that likely hold magical power, to me it appears these summoning stones are a place that was, and still is, highly suitable for rituals of all kinds, likely an area where all magic is more highly concentrated. This, coupled with the region's overall arcane affinity and sensitivity, more on that very shortly, enhances its purpose further. Falion does share with us when we ask him to cure us of vampirism.
It is possible. I know of a ritual but have never performed it.
Therefore, it is logical to assume this ritual can be performed anywhere, although under other circumstances, a summoning circle would have needed to be crafted, either by drawing it with an alchemical concoction or blood, or with candles as we've seen before. The presence of the stones is a mere convenience in this case. Moreover, we do have an example of a summoning circle directly related to oblivion in the Midden Dark, and the symbol etched into it makes its intended purpose very apparent. In conclusion, regarding the summoning circle, I believe it was built by the ancient Nords, likely as a part of a larger temple, and meant for strengthening one's magic, rituals, and possibly even opening portals. All of this will tie into the theories we shall share regarding the danger looming over Morthal. Now that these puzzle pieces have been collected and one of them discussed in length, let us finally land in the seeming nucleus of it all, Morthal. The capital city of Hjaalmarch is a considerably small town, supposedly named after the Adam Morichaus, the winged bull, who also happens to be son of Cain, consort of Saint, then Queen Alessia, and father of the latter's son Belharza. He is a deeply respected demigod in both Skyrim and Cyrodiil. Morthal struggles economically and has remained largely isolated from most major conflicts in history, both due to the treacherous terrain surrounding it and because, aside from the place being unaccommodating, it is of little strategic importance. Its symbol, that is also considered the emblem of Hjaalmarch as a whole, is a triskelion. Scholars still ponder over whether it represents the union between mind, body, and spirit, or something else entirely, though most are in consensus that its winding shape and color scheme is inspired by the misty marshes characteristic for the region. A reclusive community, its citizens are known to be distant, yet not necessarily hostile towards outsiders. Falion seems to be treated with a special derision due to his arrival in town nearly coinciding with Hrogar's house burning down and the recent strange lights and noises seen and heard at night. Daglos ganok panim frazogindo morthal. During our stories as Dovakinne, we will quickly discover something is horribly wrong in the town once we witness its populace's uneasiness and dissatisfaction with the Jarl's leadership. And none of the people's concerns are baseless, for if we choose to get actively involved with the situation, we will quickly uncover that if we are unable to save Hrogar, individuals, one of them a child, fell victim to the vampires planning to take over the place. Movart Pikin, who can be found in a cavern in close vicinity to the capital, is the mastermind behind the plan, with Alva serving as his most significant chess piece. But the presence of an entire coven of nocturnal creatures is not the only eyebrow-raising aught about Morthal. Its Jarl, Idgrod Ravencrone, and her two children, Idgrod the Younger and Yorick, happen to be seers, with the boy being far more gifted or cursed depending on the viewpoint than his elder sister, Korasal Orinok Mona.
How are you feeling, Jarl Idgrid?
The visions continue to hold me in balance, Gorm.
So, the same then.
Do not worry, my friend. All is well. The divines reveal things to me at times, yes. I do not hide this. It is a gift. Anyone who believes otherwise does not and cannot understand it.
Is there something you need there?
I'm not sure. I think perhaps. But I don't know what it is.
All right. Can you describe it to me?
No, I'm sorry. I'll know if I find it. Does that make sense?
If it does to you, dear, that's all that matters.
Please don't mind Yorick. He's not mad. Really, he's not.
I get lost sometimes. I'm not sure where I go, but I'm not here. Gorm thinks I'm mad. He doesn't say it, but I know he thinks it. Is he right? My mother sees things. She doesn't know why, but she does. Only sometimes, she doesn't see me at all.
Their visions nonetheless are not a gift from the divines, as the eldest Ravencrone claims. In the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Prima official game guide, written by David Hodgson, it says the following under Idgrod the Younger's character summary. Idgrod the Younger has heard the rumors that her mother is touched. In truth, Idgrod has been taught by her mother to seek insight and wisdom. Although neither recognize it, both are manipulating magicka subconsciously in order to achieve their visions. The younger Idgrod is much more adept at separating the visions from reality and is poised to make an excellent Jarl. This fact is backed up by Danica Purespring once we deliver a note thanking her for the potions she had sent to Yorick to help him with his visions, written by his older sister.
Poor child. Magic runs deep in that family's bloodline. It's not always a blessing.
The sight, regardless if its cause are divine forces or exceptional arcane sensitivity and skill, is considered a rare ability, even if in theory every mage can develop it. The fact that one who was born in Morthal happens to possess this gift and can pass it down through blood, resulting in three oracles in the same place, is quite intriguing. Here we return to the interpretation that swamps symbolize the subconscious mind and ever-changing emotions. All Ravencrones subconsciously manipulate magicka, which results in their visions, and said visions, in turn, end up causing a plethora of feelings that mix and can often confuse. Furthermore, this is what the elder Idgrot will tell us after we inform her of having seen Helgi's ghost in the ruins of Krogar's house.
The spirit world is strong in this place.
This is also very much in line with the earthen symbolism of mists and swamps. As mentioned previously, both are considered to signify a thin veil between our world and the beyond. On Nirn, it is backed up not only by the amount of spirits haunting the marshes, but another detail concerning disembodied souls. Nilos Mindokandar, the reason specters are a relatively rare sight in the realm of Mundus, is not because there is a shortage of ghosts haunting the land, but because manifesting to the naked eye takes energy that most cannot muster. Said energy is the result of mana accumulation that happens over time, or the influence of necromantic magics. Yet Helgi, who has died fairly recently at the time of our arrival in Morthal, manages not only to appear twice and maintain both her visage and voice, but to also have a fruitful conversation with us 3 times. For when we find her before Leylet, the little girl will speak to us without manifesting in a spectral form. And certainly, she does make her exhaustion known on several occasions, but the fact that a child who has passed recently and is untrained in the arcane arts has apparently somehow accumulated enough mana to do all of this is astounding. There is another explanation behind this phenomenon, which adds to the mystical nature of Morthal just as well, and is in line with the symbolism we previously discussed. According to the second era Altmer necromancer Maxton Favret, the town, and I quote, hums with death energy, which is especially concentrated in Kenstag ruins. The small and deceptively unremarkable place we mentioned earlier, where we may see an ancient Nordic ghost only once and never again. Unfortunately, we cannot uncover absolutely anything about these remnants northeast of Hjaalmarch's capital. Only that apparently the veil there is especially thin for one reason or another. I digress. This quote-unquote death energy that creates good conditions for necromancy can very well be the reason for Helgi's near-effortless manifestation. Nonetheless, I personally suspect her post-mortem ability is a little bit of both. She had a great arcane potential that she tragically never got to fulfill, and the deadly aura opening opportunity for a Lokdilon, necromancy, also aided her in maintaining her form. Yet another detail alluding to the town being an epicenter of events that are magical in nature. And this finally brings us to the town's most enigmatic inhabitant, who has brilliant researches dedicated entirely to him, and for good reason, Falion. It is his multiple comments regarding the town's precarious position that largely inspired this investigation. Here is what he will tell us concerning the topic.
As anyone will tell you, Morthal can be a dangerous place. My talents are useful here. I help maintain order, even if it goes unnoticed. The marsh is treacherous. You would do well to not wander at night. Morthal is a troubled place. It's my duty to see it rest in peace. Please remain indoors at night. It is dangerous to go outside. My talents are much needed here in order to keep Morthal safe.
Since he is a central figure in today's research and his role as the only one fully aware of the danger looming over Morthal, we will give him the attention he deserves, while attempting to be as concise as possible. Prior to settling in the town, the Redguard conjurer traveled the world together with his sister, Moorside Inn's keeper Yona. They appear to have a healthy and loving sibling bond, with Yona being rather protective of him, especially with the contempt he faces from Morthal's inhabitants.
You looking for Falion? Why don't you go bother those mages at their college in Winterhold and leave my brother alone? When are you gonna do something to help Falion? Stop people saying things about him?
You have to understand, his presence here has caused... well, it's difficult for the people to get used to.
They got used to Idgrod just fine, didn't they? So what's the difference?
Yes, well, perhaps you're right.
At some point before settling in the marshes, Falion was a professor in the College of Winterhold and surprisingly teaching conjuration, until one day he up and left.
Falion is the only one I know who is public about what he does. He was once my teacher here, but left the college years ago.
Why did Falion leave the college?
He didn't like the Archmage, hated dealing with him, hated having to answer to him. Falion said he hated what this place was becoming, so he just left. Arin found a note on his desk, and that was it. I understand he settled down in Hjaalmarch, and his presence there caused something of a problem.
We will return to this detail regarding Falion's past when we explore one of the theories. At some point, he took the orphaned Lord Agni as his ward and apprentice.
Do you like magic? Falion says I'm good at learning. I like learning about magic. My mother and father died years ago. Falion takes care of me now.
Have you been working on your concentration?
Yes, sir, I have.
Good, good. Concentration is paramount when dealing with magical forces.
Why?
Because an unfocused mind will almost certainly be obliterated, destroyed by the forces you attempt to control and yield.
Oh.
Have no fear. I believe it is within you to excel in your studies, but you must learn to concentrate.
Yes, sir. When I grow up, will I go to the college in Winterhold?
No, I don't think that will be necessary.
But I'm learning about magic, and that's what they do there. Shouldn't I go?
The college is not the only place to learn about magic.
But you went there, didn't you? Isn't that where you learned?
I was there only for a short time. Much of what I have learned has been on my own, and I will teach you. You have no reason to go there.
But...
That's enough.
I asked Falion if someday I could learn from the mages in Winterhold, but he doesn't like that idea.
As we see, Falion is happy to train her in the arcane arts, and understandably, given his experience with Winterhold's magical institution, dissuades her from pursuing study in the college. Before we proceed with what else we know of Falion, allow me to briefly focus on Agni. Once again, we have a magically inclined individual in Morthal. While it is not confirmed, it is most likely that she was born there and that the mage Kuzanek Nebenok Ving after moving in the town with his sister. Regardless, even if she was not born in Morthal, this does not change the fact that we have quite a few individuals gifted in a variety of arcane abilities in this town. Nurigirwa Falion. Now back to Falion. As we are aware, he is the only person in Skyrim who is capable of curing vampirism, and is known as an expert in all types of undead across the land.
They say Falion of Morthal has studied vampires, draugr, and all manner of undead.
Falion also happens to be the master trainer in conjuration in Skyrim, with Finis Gestor, Winterhold's current professor teaching the School of Magic, having achieved the lesser, only in context of course, expert level in the craft. Arguably the most intriguing oath about Falion nonetheless are his midnight strolls that will always take him to the summoning circle outside of Morthal we discussed earlier. If we follow him and make our presence known, he will not be ecstatic to see us. I thought you said the marshes are especially treacherous at night, so what are you doing out here?
What I am doing is none of your business. Why are you here? Did you follow me? I demand that you leave at once and never speak of this again.
And why exactly should I keep this a secret?
It is none of your concern, I assure you. Just forget that you ever saw me here.
Paprosa, Falion. I believe you. I'll leave you alone.
Thank you. I will not forget this.
Afterwards, regardless of what we tell Falion, we can inform the Jarl of his nocturnal activities, unless our game suffers from a common bug, like mine. Therefore, we shall improvise with extracted audio files accompanied by appropriate footage on my part.
Ah, so it is not just dreams, then. I have seen this. I will see that it is dealt with. Thank you for bringing clarity. Falion, I am disappointed.
What is the meaning of this?
You've been exploring places you shouldn't, and you know it. It stops at once, or else there will be consequences of an unpleasant nature. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
In spite of what he says, Falion will continue his nightly visits to the summoning circle with the Jarl, whether Idgrot or Sogli, remaining oblivious to this. Yorick also has something interesting to say about the Master Conjurer, as does his father.
It's Falion. He did it. I don't know what it was, but he did it.
What troubles you, husband?
It's Yorick. I fear his condition is worse. He calls out in his sleep sometimes. I've heard Falion's name. What does it mean?
Yorick will be what Yorick will be. Give it time.
Still, I fear there is some connection.
And Agni herself has nightmares that she shares with her guardian.
I had a bad dream again last night.
Oh?
I dreamt that you went away. You made monsters.
It's just a dream, child, nothing more.
It was scary. It was like it was real.
Hush now. Think no more of it.
I wish to quickly address that I personally believe Falion does have good intentions and indeed protects Morthal from some unknown peril, instead of exploring the possibility that he himself is the danger. An argument contradicting my belief can very well be his lack of involvement in the quest laid to rest, especially considering his claims that he keeps Morthal safe with his abilities. However, it is important to consider both that he apparently moved there shortly after Hrogar's house burned down and his less than favorable standing with the townsfolk. If he did choose to take it upon himself to investigate the cindered ruins, it is more than likely that he would have ended up being scorned more, even believed to have had a hand in it, in spite of not having become a permanent resident of the town as of yet. As for why he did not share with Idgrod that Alva is a vampire, since he can recognize vampirism with ease, given how little he interacts with the townsfolk for reasons already stated, he may not have even found out about her nature. It is also possible Alva herself was especially cautious around Falion, and avoided him like ataxia, considering he is known of having incredible knowledge on all kinds of undead. Another reason could be that he has tasked himself with keeping a much larger threat at bay and trusted somebody capable, who in this case turns out to be us, to handle the situation. Or all of what was mentioned is true. Another counter-argument to my trust in Falion are the nightmares both Agni and Yorick have involving him. Notwithstanding, I propose a refutal to both. It is no secret he trains his ward in the arcane arts and has no doubt demonstrated his own magical abilities as a conjurer to her in the process. It is entirely normal that summoned danger and the like would have an impact on a child's psyche, even if only on a subconscious level, hence her nightmares of Falion quote-unquote making monsters in the swamp. And if by some chance these dreams happen to be prophetic, who is to say that Falion is simply not honing his craft at night in the marshes away from judgmental eyes and ears, and or using his skills to protect the town as he claims? This also applies to what Yorick says regarding Falion having done something unknown, and Tazelfur having heard his son call out the conjurer's name during dreams and nightmares. Regardless, the reasons I believe Falion is genuine in his desire for both a quiet, rather isolated life and to protect Morthal are the following. Firstly, two people he loves reside in the town alongside him, Agni and Tiona. I highly doubt he would risk their lives for some dark scheme, especially since he shares with us the main reason why he himself did not choose to become a vampire.
I met several of your kind during my studies of life-extending magics. I even considered becoming a vampire myself. In the end, vampirism would endanger my ward Agni, which would defeat the intended purpose.
Secondly, his reaction to us having followed him to the summoning stones I reckon says much about his character. While upset with our actions, he does not threaten us to keep quiet, nalal duini thum, he does not even insult, let alone physically attack us. And he would have easily gotten away with disposing of the menace too. Hjaalmarch is known to be dangerous, especially at night. Therefore, somebody disappearing into the marshes would not have been treated as suspicious in the slightest. And given his impressive arsenal of abilities, there are few who could handle him kodelal gra. Yet he simply chooses to dissuade us from informing anyone of his nocturnal strolls and is ready to pay us a generous sum to remain silent if we choose to shake him down. These are not the actions of an evil sorcerer who wishes to sow chaos, in my opinion. Also, if we keep an eye on him as he sets out to the summoning circle late at night, we will notice that he makes haste to get there, as if to check if a protection spell he cast is holding up and or if there is some kind of danger directly threatening Morthal. This is a huge contrast to the leisurely stroll he takes on the way back. Furthermore, if we are to believe Jarl Idgrod's visions, which seem to be accurate according to what we know, he is trustworthy, and she even tells us that the people of Morthal will eventually come to accept him.
That which is unknown can create unease, even fear. It is to be expected. Some fear our new resident wizard. As they grow to know him, they will accept him. Time will prove me right.
She does say that he is, and I quote, exploring places he shouldn't. Nonetheless, the Jarl appears blissfully unaware of any danger shadowing her town, therefore I am inclined not to count this as evidence proving Falion to be malicious. I also investigated his humble abode and his sister's inn, and found absolutely nothing suspicious. Even his choices of reading materials are either rather mundane or entirely expected of an arcane practitioner. Ondagos moviso fondrendire do fal ruta voc Morthal. The first speculation I have come up with, which ties into Falion's past as a professor in the College of Winterhold and strengthens my claim about the summoning circle having been built by the ancient Nords, is that he chose to reside in Morthal in order to protect the town from the Dragon Priest Morokei, should he break free from Savosagans and Thralled Ghosts. As Finis says, Falion detested the Archmage, and did not even inform him of his departure from the institution formally, instead only leaving him a note. And as observed, he gently but firmly discourages Agni from going there when she is old enough. While the situation can be as simple as the Master Conjurer being nearly dissatisfied with Agen's leadership, which he was, and the lack of measures taken for student safety when it comes to his ward, what if Falion also uncovered Agen's involvement in what transpired in Bromyonag while the latter was still a student? Given what we know of Morthal's safe-proclaimed protector, I believe he would have not only found Savos betraying and enthralling his last two surviving colleagues out of fear disgusting, but would have also considered the precautions the Archmage had taken to contain the Dragon Priest within Bromyonag inadequate, at least in the long run. Therefore, shortly after discovering this grim detail of his employer's past, he chose to do what he could on his own in order to prevent what would turn out to be devastating chaos should Morokei break free and move to the major settlement closest to, and thus in most danger, Dofal Dova Sonag, Morthal. And indeed, Bromyonag is directly south-southeast of the capital of Hjaalmarch. Wan Morokei haindwa kron vod fredo okmir are, darlos dist gazinuf krazat. Not to mention the priest has a staff of Magnus at his disposal, only adding to the threat. We can even go so far as to argue that the nightly rituals Falion engages in at the Summoning Stones are connected to either strengthening the enthralled ghost's barrier and/or weakening Morokei through complex magics that can produce successful results from afar. If the circle was indeed built by ancient Nords and/or was a part of a larger structure, what is to stop us from speculating that it is directly related to Bromyonag, given its relatively close vicinity to the former capital city of Skyrim? The summoning stones could even be a place appropriate for the opening of a portal from one place or realm to another, as I mentioned earlier. What if Falion does just that every night, traveling to Brominar through it to ensure Morokei remains trapped within? Skilled mages can open orbital conjunctions, as portals are also called, and Falion is most definitely a talented sorcerer. Whether or not this hypothetical portal could take him to Brominar's inner sanctum or only at the ruins' gates is up to our imagination, although the latter would be a simple explanation as to why the conjurer has not taken more drastic measures to ensure Morokei is not an active threat to Morthal and Hjaalmarch, aside from likely being no match for a dragon priest wielding the Staff of Magnus. The dork needed to open Labyrinthian is not in his possession. Perhaps he had no idea Agni had taken it to prevent anyone from entering the temple, or he could not find it before leaving the college and did not have the time and opportunity to look more closely. What if the circle was created not by any ancient Nords, but by high-ranking members of the dragon cult, perhaps even Morokei himself, for the purposes already mentioned previously? Considering Hjaalmarch's arcane presence that is also related to necromancy, which Dova Sonaki were quite proficient in, given their current states as liches, an exceptional form of undead, it would make sense they would not only raise the capital city in this region, but other buildings and or outdoors places suitable for concentrated magical practices. I digress. Another possibility is that Falion is unaware of the details surrounding what occurred with Savos in Labyrinthian, but knows some powerful and malevolent force that could break free at some point resides there, and has taken it upon himself to defend Morthal from it. Mages are sensitive to the arcane, and given how powerful the Master Conjurer is, I am certain he can sense Val Makil Suliek no Brominar. A major weakness to this theory is that after we defeat Morokei and claim the Staff of Magnus, Falion will still offhandedly inform us that he keeps Oath balanced and ensures Morthal is safe, and his enigmatic strolls to the summoning stones after dark will not cease. This could be explained with the argument that gameplay does not equal lore, and or that possible lines of his referring to Val Vokul ko Bromunar have been cut or not recorded at all due to time constraints, but in spite of this, it is a rather glaring hole in the speculation. Nonetheless, I believe the theory does hold water. The next assumption is more of an honorable mention due to the lack of concrete evidence to support it. The Daedric Prince Vaermina has, or rather had, taken an interest in Morthal, and it is Falion's complex and powerful magics that have been keeping her at bay and forced her to attempt to take over another settlement instead, in this case Dawnstar. She is considered to be one of the most evil Daedric princes, and her sphere of governance is dreams and nightmares, corruption and decay. I have seen braan bovitaan, fellow adventurers, offhandedly state that the name of her realm of oblivion, quagmire, means wet land that is unstable to walk on, and is also quite literally used to refer to bogs. And marshes characterize the majority of Hjaalmarch's and all of Morthal's landscape. Furthermore, we have 3 seers in the town that receive their visions through dreams, and Yorick in particular often suffers from intense night terrors. As mentioned before, Agni also shares with Falion Darek lost Harvulonne of him leaving and summoning monsters in the swamps. However, this is all that could support Vaermina being the peril looming over Hjaalmarch and its capital. Firstly, in spite of sharing a meaning with marshes, her realm of oblivion quagmire is not a map of swamps, but an ever-changing place which is, true to her nature, nightmarish. Furthermore, all of Morthal's dreamers recall their visions in the case of the Ravencrones, and dreams when it comes to Agni in detail, and not all are necessarily terror-inducing. Vaermina is known to collect Fal Varukte do Jor, leaving only horror in the sleeping mortal's mind. Besides, as established earlier, Idgoth and her children are seers thanks to their subconscious manipulation of magicka, which has nothing to do with the Daedric prince in question, and Agni's nightmare, as mentioned before, can be easily explained with the fact that Falion is a conjurer, hence he quote-unquote makes monsters thanks to his arcane abilities. Furthermore, it is logical that Dawnstar is Vaermina's target in Skyrim. Nightcaller Temple, dedicated to her, is on the cliff directly overlooking the capital city of the Pale. In spite of not having as many legs to stand on, this speculation was worth sharing. The next theory is that none other than Molag Bal is the peril looming over Morthal. The Lord of Domination is one of the most evil Daedric princes, who takes great pleasure in the enslavement and suffering of mortals. I shall not cite all that is known of him, only what is relevant to our current investigation. One of his many aliases is the father of vampires, believed to have created them as a way to spite one of his many enemies, the divine of the cycles of life and death, Arcane, by brutally assaulting Bel Fag, a needy priestess of Arcane, turning her into the first vampire. The presence of a coven of these nocturnal creatures, both in close proximity to and in the town itself, adds to the speculation, especially considering they were trying to enslave its population to use as, and I quote, cattle. Even if these bloodsuckers were not effectively worshipping the Daedric prince, through their very nature and actions, it can be said they were carrying out his will on Mundus. Furthermore, Falion, the only mage capable of curing vampirism, happens to have chosen to reside in Morthal in order to protect the town from something in secret. Another detail in support of this speculation is how random Molag Bal's shrine in the abandoned house in Markarth appears from a player's perspective, even if its location can technically be explained. However, there is nothing in the City of Stone to suggest such sinister Daedric presence, and yet it is there, confined yet no less perilous, as we can find out ourselves. Ge hadvochik lachneandarus. And Molag Bal is one of the Daedra that is revered by certain groups of rich folk, but in spite of this, to me it has always felt somewhat out of place. There are a number of forsworn encampments we can come across in the Reach, and the particular one we can visit as we are tasked with rescuing the Bella Sibyl holds a rather big statue of the Divine of Beauty. So why did we not come across the shrine of the Lord of Domination in one of these forsworn havens instead of in an abandoned house at Markarth? As I said, it is not illogical considering the Reach folks' permanent presence in the city before Ulfric drove them out, which still persists. However, I do find the situation curious. Perhaps a more logical explanation would be that this shrine was not left there by the Forsworn, but by some cavern dwellers, since we do uncover a pickaxe and a shovel as we descend the stairs leading to Molag Bal's altar. It seems that the previous occupants of the house were disturbed by supernatural phenomenon and sought to uncover its source, only to move as quickly as possible after finding out just what, or rather who it actually is. Regardless, Morthal is an extremely attractive area for someone such as Molag Bal, who also happens to be a great necromancer. It is very magically charged and ominous, and more importantly, there is permanent death energy there, as Maxton's journal states. For a master necromancer who is giddy at the opportunity to collect and enslave souls, it sounds heavenly. Furthermore, while I still stand by my theory that the summoning circle was built by the ancient Nords, maybe even dragon priests, for arcane and ritualistic purposes, said speculation does not refute it possibly playing the role as a portal from one realm to another. And the Norbisil conjunction works both ways. Certain Daedra are magically inclined and could very well utilize this structure as they wish, putting Morthal in serious danger. Something that ties into this quite well are the events that occur 1,000 years before year 201 of the Fourth Era. Back then, Molag Bal invaded Nirn, and the place where his Daedra and vampires were in their largest numbers was Cyrodiil, and especially the area surrounding Coral. This favorite city of mine happens to be the only one in the province where a fissure bubbling with magma cracked open, resulting in numerous deira, Suramik Yolkaronase, emerging in the area. The small settlement of Hackdirt, which later becomes a blood sacrificial cult to enigmatic entities called the Deep Ones, is directly south of Coral, and it is a popular speculation that these malevolent beings are in fact Daedra connected to Molag Bal that I personally support myself. The legendary late Camel Works has an incredible research on the Deep Ones, where he discusses said speculation, which happens to be his own, in detail. Adding to Mr. Mackenzie Rouse's compelling arguments in support of his theory, the shrine to Molag Bal in Cyrodiil is southeast of Cagdirt, in rather close proximity to the town. The reason I mention both of these ought is because when we look at a map of Tamriel, we shall see that Morthal is directly north of both Hackdirt and Coral. What if these Deep Ones, which we shall treat as Daedra related to Molag Bal in our current discussion, and other minions of the Harvester of Souls, move through underground caverns connecting the capital of Hjaalmarch and that of the Great Forest region in Cyrodiil? As mentioned before, aside from Daedra, vampires were also in abundance in the Imperial Province at that time. What is to stop us from speculating that some in Movard's lair who managed to survive a millennium came from there? The Master Vampire was, ironically enough, an active vampire hunter sometime during the Second Era in Cyrodiil, before he was turned by a bloodsucker posing as a priest of Arcane, who is also the author of Immortal Blood, that specifically shares Movard's story. He himself can very well be an example of a creature of the night that became such during Molag Bal's invasion of Tamriel. And whilst we are connecting events from our stories as heroes of Kvatch to the Fourth Era, let us return to the Pale Lady, as promised, and reimagine the legendary ghostly woman. What if the one who was reason for these stories was not the Wisp Mother we find in Frostmere Crypt at all, but the eponymous vampire we uncover in Skingrad's dungeons? If we have to be literal, as a nocturnal creature she is indeed quote-unquote pale, despite being a Dunmer, even if we may interpret this moniker as a metaphor of her vampiric nature. It is unknown exactly when the legends of this creature of folklore emerged in Morthal, only that they are very old. We are also not aware of how long the vampire has quote-unquote lived before we put an end to her undead existence in the Gem of Old Colovia's prisons. Therefore, there is nothing to contradict the claims that she is the Pale Lady da Gefasan Fal Jorin. Cyrodiil borders Skyrim to the north, and even if it didn't, the Pale Lady we meet in the former province could have very well traveled before settling to use Skingrad's prisoners as dinner. Or the spectral figure mentioned in Lost Legends by Talsgag the Elder is a fusion of both Pale Ladies. Another vampire having wreaked havoc at some point in Morthal could serve to strengthen Molag Bal's interest in the area. In any event, we may only speculate on what kinds of spells Falion casts at the Summoning Stones after dark in order to keep the Daedric Prince at bay. According to the Conjurer,
I know many things. I've studied things beyond the reach of most humans. Traveled the Oblivion Plains, seen things one should not see. I have met Daedra and Dwemer, and everything in between, and I know enough to see a vampire where others would see a man.
And even if he is exaggerating his feats, I am inclined to believe in his Suliek, power. Regardless, a weakness to this theory, which presented itself earlier while we were discussing why I do not believe Falion to be evil himself, is why he did nothing to prevent the vampires, willing or unwilling servants of Molag Bal, from taking over the town. And the refutation is the same. He may have avoided getting involved lest he gets blamed for the misfortunes that have befallen Morthal, did not know of what was happening at all due to his isolation, and in my opinion the strongest argument has something much more dangerous to deal with than the coven of nocturnal creatures. Molag Bal and his Daedra are truly forces to be reckoned with, and if he has the prince and his servants to call back, then that would take most of his time and energy. In any case, I do believe this speculation is quite likely given the presented evidence and in spite of the stated weakness. The final theory I have come up with, which is rather short, is that the unspoken danger Falion is protecting Morthal from is plainly the powerful magic the region is known for. As Jarl Idgod tells us, the spirit world is very strong in Hjaalmarch and especially its capital city, resulting in a lot of volatility and opportunities for possibly malevolent specters, mages, vampires, etc. This simple yet in my opinion plausible assumption can be backed up by this vague comment by Falion.
My talents are useful here. I help maintain order, even if it goes unnoticed.
Since the magics in the region are both powerful and unstable, it makes sense that a skilled sorcerer could do his part in balancing them out. This also explains the diversity of beings in the region, from ghosts, all of which are harmless as we uncover in my Ghosts of Skyrim deep dive and Wisp Mothers, to vampires and mages, usually focusing on conjuration and necromancy as established by the unmarked locations we mentioned. It could also shed some light as to why the dragon cult chose Hjaalmarch to be the region where they would build their great capital Vaermina, and according to my theory, the summoning circle, Padosonake lo Sulekar Zeye, a locale where the veil between worlds is thin and thus magical energies are stronger, is perfect for their biggest power body. Here we return to Genstag ruins and their apparent connection to death according to Maxton's journal. And this possibility, Fasulekara Lok Dilon Stave, has not attracted only her, as evidenced by the numerous conjurers and one confirmed plus many potential necromancers around Hjaalmarch as mentioned previously. The Altmer mage also calls Morthal, and I quote, precisely the hub of necromantic power that I hoped for. How long would it take for these sorcerers and sorceresses to sense this as well and grow bolder with their experiments? And definitely not all of them would be as benevolent as Falion. Therefore, the Master Conjurer could be defending the town from all of these factors, born of the intense arcane energies and connection to the spirit world Hjaalmarch and especially the area around Morthal is known for. There is really nothing more to add, and thus, today's research has come to an end. Hjaalmarch is one of my favorite holds in Skyrim due to its mystery, mysticism, and menacing beauty, and Morthal is a town that gives me the sense of fragile peace and uneasy quiet, drawing me in again and again. It was an utmost honor and pleasure to conduct this thorough investigation on the area, its capital, and by extension Falion. And I sincerely hope you enjoyed it as much as I loved putting it together. Which of the theories concerning the unnamed peril looming over Morthal did you find to be the most plausible? Or perhaps you have your own to share. If you do, please do not hesitate to tell me. I always adore exchanging thoughts and knowledge with you, Difadonne. Harkun Slat Kogan, thank you all for your support as always. I look forward to spending time with you again, but until then, Lok Throom. Fasni walok zainfal bru. Astide vazabaro milis vazalus dar, Difadonne.